Some quick button work right there.
Absolutely.
Hello, everybody. I see the numbers. Everybody's starting to log in. I'll give them a couple minutes. Um, though Magical Mike, man, he was the first one. He was already messaging at like 7:01. He was so early, so early.
Wow. He's always punctual.
He is. He is. Um, and I know a couple more coming.
Cool.
So we've got the continuation of the Healing Life Force Mesada.
Yeah.
Continuation or answer and ask other questions somebody might have.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great time if one's on the fence, not clear from the other video or didn't get a chance to see the other video. It's a great time to ask questions and get a better idea of what this is all about and what will be what I'm offering there at Goddess Elite.
Yes. So for new people who are joining in who maybe didn't see it last week, what exactly will you be offering for everybody?
It's called a Healing Life Force Mesada. In Peru, it would be called a Mesada Espiritual or Espiritud, which basically means a spiritual allowance. It's a ceremony geared toward getting the participants into an altered state of consciousness that allows for the spirit to come into this dimension and speak with them. Of course, it's still a spiritual side of this dimension, but to speak with them or to perform healings on them, these type of things. And like we were talking about last time, healings don't mean, I don't want people to get the idea that this is only for someone who is severely ill or terminally ill. It's great for those people. But healing is a word that is much bigger than that in our traditions. And it means being able to live your life with purpose, to move forward in your life, to not be held back by any type of shackles or bounds. So for people who feel like their life just isn't moving forward the way they think it should, or that they're not accomplishing what they're sure they are capable of accomplishing, or for people who have spiritual gifts, this is a powerful type of ceremony, or for people who have already awakened, for people who already have spiritual gifts, for people who perform healings and perform psychic readings and mediumistic kind of things. This creates a current. Everyone in the room together creates a current of energy, this life force energy. And that life force energy, as it gets more powerful, it elevates the ceremonial space or the space that we're in, and it creates this form of sacred space. And when that happens, suddenly random messages can come through. And I don't just mean through me, I mean through everyone in the room. They might suddenly get a message that has been blocked up. Because what happens is in our day-to-day life, we run on stress hormones, and we're so busy trying to get everything in our lives done that we don't pay a lot of attention to the spiritual. There's all kinds of people who are great spiritual workers, but they just may not have time to meditate. They may not have time to do these other things, but they're still serving their community. They're still helping people. But because they don't have time to devote to their own personal development, their own growth, they get kind of blocked up, and it can get to a state where they don't feel potent, even though everything's telling them differently in their life. They don't feel potent. And the reason why is they've lost the voice inside. They've lost that knowing, that intuition. And it isn't that they lost it maybe for other people, but they lost it for themselves. And the reason that happens is they don't have time to devote to it. So in a ceremony like this, such a current is raised that it busts through those blocks. It actually starts to flow those blocks out, because when energy is flowing, it's just like a river. Anything that gets around that is blocking it starts to slowly erode until it starts to flow again as well. Then we get back into the flow of things. For other people, and right now I'm really talking about spiritual workers, or some would call light workers. For other ones, the block is mental. The block is in their mind. It's a thought form block. It's not a block of stress and time. It's just really a thought form block. And those things can start to unravel as well in a ceremony like this. Not to mention that you can get random insights as to how to apply your spiritual gifts. You know, we all have spiritual gifts, but there's more to it than just having it. It's how do we apply it? Who do we apply it to? Who are the people who need our work and need our help? So it really helps clarify that for those people. For other people who are just getting into spiritual pursuits or just getting into energy work and things like that, it can awaken their spiritual gifts. For everyone, it magnifies whatever you came to this planet with. It magnifies who you are. It helps you see yourself through a different lens and to start working toward the big self that you know you are, your soul's purpose. So that's it kind of in a nutshell. It also is for healing of people who are chronically ill, not for someone with like a virus or a flu or a cold. We don't call that really an illness, a spiritual illness. You know, we all get sick. Even the greatest spiritual healers still get sick from time to time. But it's the amount of time that we are sick. It's the amount of time we have it. And there's nothing abnormal about being sick for up to 2 or even 3 weeks with something. And by that, I mean not recovering at all. We don't consider it still being sick when you start to recover. You know, if you had a fever through the first week and in the second week you still feel like crap, but you don't have a fever anymore, then you're recovering from that. That's not a spiritual illness. That's not something that really working with the spirit is going to change that much, because your body's doing just fine with it. You know, so that's an important point. But for someone who's dealing with something more serious than that, something where there is a systemic, I can't say the word right now, but when there's a breakdown in a system, when there's a breakdown in the immune system, in the cardiovascular system, in the endocrine system, all these things can be addressed during something like this. And in that case, especially if they're working with me, which no one has to come up and receive healing or a session with me, but anyone who wants to, for the most part, it can. And, you know, they might get information as to the cause of that or how to remedy that. Because though it can change just like that, like we were talking about last time, there are miraculous healings that happen. Even with a miraculous healing, there is efforts that you need to put forth for your own healing, even after that, to continue to keep things moving smoothly.
I think one of my favorite quotes from you, Zane, back in one of the apprenticeships was like, you said something along the lines of getting sick isn't necessarily a choice, but the suffering
Yes.
is a choice.
Yeah. Because suffering is something we do to ourselves. You know, suffering's a story. Okay, I get sick and I'm sick for a week. I'm sick for 2 weeks. Well, that's miserable and that's painful. And it's not maybe not the best time I could be having in those 2 weeks. I'm going to want to heal from that. I'm going to want to recover and get my health back. But that's about it. Suffering is when we start telling ourselves stories. It's when our limiting beliefs start to play games on our mind and our emotions, when our old traumas start to play games on us. And it's a good way to find out what those are. You know, you get sick and then you start thinking about, well, you think, oh, I deserve this. Well, why do you deserve that? Well, that will start showing you your limited beliefs, your traumas that are coming up for you. And so it's really important to look at all of that. And that's what suffering is, though. It's the emotional and mental stories we weave around a condition. Mm-hmm. You know, I go and I stub my toe because I'm not paying too much attention in the morning. I'm half asleep and I break my toe. Well, that's unfortunate, but that's all it is. It's just unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And if I can sit there and just be goofy with myself instead of really mad at myself, if I can just be like, oh my gosh, that's so stupid that I just did that, but that's all right. You know, But if I start saying, oh, you're stupid, oh, what a dum-dum, why would I do such a, and you start beating yourself up, you're actually causing your body to go into a state, which is a cortisol rich state, similar to fight or flight, where your body is not concerned with regeneration. Your body's concerned with preservation. And preservation is getting you out of the circumstance. Well, if you just broke your toe, you're not getting out of that circumstance. You're going to have to deal with that broken toe. So we want to bring the healing energy in. And that comes from actually being calm in it all and accepting what happened. It's okay to be a little upset. It's okay. That's natural. But if you're upset for longer than 20 minutes, something's up. And that's about anything in your life. If you're upset, if you're even feel ravenous love for more than like 20 minutes, there's something up, because we are dynamic beings, and in our natural state, in our natural, some would call spiritual state of mind, we move from one feeling to another. We can feel anger for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then move into feelings of love, and then move into feelings of sadness. And that's okay. It's the spice of life. It's the rainbow, and it's all beautiful. The problem comes when we get stuck in one of those. No matter which one we get stuck in, it's showing something to us. It's showing us an unfulfilled need. It's showing us a limiting belief that we have, a scarcity mindset that we have, or even a punishment that we're putting on ourselves, a way that we're punishing ourselves for something we can't forgive ourselves for. And all of those things keep us from going into regeneration mode. They keep us in more like a procreation mode and in a preservation mode, but they don't allow us to go into the restorative mode we need to get beyond the illness, beyond the injury. And that's all because we're suffering. It slows all that down.
Now, for all of our friends joining, feel free to ask questions, comments. Even if you've been through Zane's apprenticeship before, feel free to ask questions, because I think even if they've been through the apprenticeship, I'm sure there's at least one or two of us that could benefit from, the Mesada. That will be taking place on March 18th. I know the banner had the wrong date. I'm like, oh, let's fix that. And it's not even Mercury retrograde, if you buy into that. So, which would be next Saturday, as we are speaking right now, at Goddess Elite. So now, Zane, and I think you and I talked about this off air last week,
Mm-hmm.
but the Mesada and removing the blockages and helping out, and I asked you what the difference between kind of what the Mesada would do and what the Pachacuti would do.
Yeah. Well, for those who have been in the program, they know about a process. Some of them know how to do the process, some don't, but a process of Pachacuti. And Pachacuti means world turned upside down. So the difference is we're not turning a world upside down. So in a Pachacuti type of ceremony, what we're actually doing is we feel so stuck in life that any movement is good movement. That any movement, even if it's for the worst, is favorable because it gets the energy unstuck. And we don't do Pachacutis until everything else has been exhausted. And the reason why is we don't know how they'll work out. We don't know at all how they're going to work out or what they're going to do to or for the person that it's being done on, or the situation is being done on. All we know for a fact is that something has got to change in their life. Now, of course, for those who I train, there comes a point in the training, and it's different for each group. Like I was saying, some groups, we never get all the way to the Pachacuti. Some we do, and that's okay because it's what's needed that year. There's a bit of that goes into it, a flexible thing where we're actually reading the signs of what's going on in the current year to help decide where we should put emphasis on the program, so that we are developing healers and mentors and visionaries that can deal with the circumstances that are coming up right then in the current now. But a Pachacuti, my students have to do one for themselves, because until you've done one for yourself, you don't have the responsibility to offer it to another person. Because when you go to that point of doing the Pachacuti, you're throwing whoever you're doing it for, you're throwing their entire life into chaos of some type. It could be positive chaos, or it could be more what someone would see as a negative chaos. But the understanding is it's not done lightly. It's not done just because someone is sick and they haven't been getting better. It's done when something is so pressing that any movement in it, even if it's the movement to the worst case scenario, is favorable to staying where you're at. The Mesada is different than that. The Mesada is a gentle working. There's a gentleness to it, and it's a place for the spirits to come out and communicate with you, to tell you their plans, what they see for you, how they see things could work out for you. So it's not a blind action that creates a change in someone's life, and we don't know what the change will be. We know that it's a beneficent change. We know that it will be on that positive side. That's what we're working in something like a Mesada.
Not near as extreme.
Yeah. Though it can be miraculous for the people within it. It can be a really powerful experience for someone, but it's not. But there's not both sides of the scale to deal with. It's not just the scale balancing between favorable and unfavorable, and then picking the one that the universe is easiest to cause a change in your life with.
Now, Elizabeth has a question. Says, why do some in the shamanic community teach that the illness is a spiritual defect and that you should only be healed by spiritual means? Is that more of a personal belief?
Yeah, and I've never heard any belief like that amongst traditional medicine people. That is a more contemporary belief. And it comes from the idea that if we are functioning at our highest potential, we can't get sick. And that if we are functioning at this, if we are doing what Spirit wants us to do, then everything is smooth in our lives without any interruptions. And that's just, like I said, I've never known a traditional spiritual teacher that would say that would actually go down that road or say that. I've known there are traditional shamans that died of COVID that were very elevated people. There were a lot of medicine people who died of COVID because in the indigenous communities, they don't have the connection to our modern day medicine. They don't have the vaccines, whether you're pro or against the vaccines. They don't have those. They don't have the treatments that we have. And they live usually, especially such people such as the Caro that I worked with, it's a good, most villages is a good 7-hour hike and then another 4 to 6 hour drive to get to any major hospital, and the traditional medicine, that's just I don't want to call it a new age belief, but it's a new thought belief. It's a new thought belief that has sprung up, that it's that being sick is a spiritual defect. And I can't say I agree with that in any way, shape, or form. The one thing I will say is medicine people that I know, they'll get sick just like everyone else, but they start to recover faster usually. Usually a day or two, sometimes longer, depending on the illness that they're dealing with. But so a day or two, a week, and then they start to recover, where someone else might take 2 weeks before they recover, or even 3 weeks before they start to recover. But the actual idea that if you are, that part of that comes from the teachings of prosperity Christianity, which say if you are following the right spiritual path and you'll be in the grace of the spirits, which is true, but that doesn't mean that unfortunate things can't happen to you. And an unfortunate thing happening to you does not mean that you have some type of defect. If you cannot heal, there's a spiritual cause that is keeping you from being able to heal to some degree or another. And healing is not always the reversal of condition. That's something that the Western allopathic medicine has put on it. In the indigenous communities, like I know Pacos, which is the name that we call the Andean shamans. I know Pacos who got struck by lightning, and that was their initiation. And they still walk around and one side of their body is a little stiff and it doesn't work so well. And that was their initiation directly from the spirit. Spirit initiated them. And in our culture, we would say, oh, they're not healed from that. But in their culture, they're more than healed. They've been healed and perfected by it. That thing that they carry on into their day-to-day life, that is a daily symbol, a misha, a reminder that they have been chosen by the spirit.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say they kind of consider that as like a blessing, and they were glad to have gotten it.
Yeah, to receive. Some are glad to have gotten it, but some are scared because they don't want to step up to that role, because it's a big responsibility. It's not it's not just all like living a good life and things like that. There's a lot of responsibility to it, and you still have the responsibilities of everyone else in your tribe. The shaman doesn't get a get out of free card to sit on the edge of the village and just everyone comes and feeds them and gives them everything they need. No, that shaman has their own herds of llama that they have to go be shepherds for and feed, and to move from field to field in the mountains. That they have to go and grow their own potatoes. They still have to go down to the jungle once a year and grow their corn and their other crops that won't grow in the high altitude. They still have to carry kindling up to the top of the mountain so that they can start fires so they can cook their food. All of this is still their reality. They still have to do what everyone else has to do, but then they have a spiritual calling that when someone is having a spiritual crisis of some type, they also have to attend to that.
I'm doing this all wrong. I thought I was going to get to go sit in a cabin up in a treehouse somewhere, Zane. Darn it.
Yeah, it's not the reality of what the traditional communities have. It's not the reality. It's very different than that. And because of that responsibility, a lot of the people who are chosen by the Ray, it's called, don't want it. And many of them will refuse it. And they'll get sick then. They'll get all kinds of sicknesses and stuff because they're being pushed, because their community needs them. And that's what will restore harmony in their community, is for this person to be a priest, is for this person to pick up the misha and to carry it.
So the healing Mesada, if somebody's feeling like they're being called, but they're not sure what it is, the Mesada can help clear that up for them?
The Mesada can help to clear that up for them. And like I was saying, it could just be while they're making the current, while they're part of the current, it could come up, and one of their spirit guides, even if they don't know they have spirit guides, can tap them on the shoulder suddenly because they're in a receptive state, which doesn't happen in our day-to-day modern world very often. They're in a receptive state where they have put aside everything else in life to dedicate themselves to spirit. So spirit can suddenly tap on their shoulder and tell them, hey, what's up? This is where you need to go. Or they can come up and talk with me and say, hey, I feel lost. How do I get going? How do I move forward? And I'll tell them what comes up for them, through me. But like we were talking about last time, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it doesn't make complete sense at the moment because you're thinking, hey, I need this one thing. I need it to work out this one way. And we have a limitation we've set on how it will be, an expectation of how it must be to step into that role or to step into that calling. And it could be something a little bit different than that. And the spirits might tell you something that at first seems even confusing. And you can question a little bit, but really what it comes down to is maybe a week, a month, 2 months down the line, they suddenly realize what was being said to them. They suddenly see things unfolding and they realize, oh, that's why this was said to. That's what that meant. It's not always crystal clear in the moment, but the spirits are really never wrong either.
So for anybody that you just know you have that inkling and you don't know what it means, the Mesada is going to give you a hand there. Louis, she's like, I guess I need to visit my friendly local teacher, Zane, about some guidance.
Yeah, come, Louis. It would be great to see you. It's a great opportunity to sit and hoop with other people. And like I said, there's no you don't have to be an expert spiritual worker or a shaman in training or a medium or any of those things to come and receive and to start unraveling your spiritual gifts and to start finding out what's going on, what you feel called toward, why you're feeling called at this moment, or just an illness. Like I was saying, something other than just a run-of-the-mill illness. Those big illnesses are callings. Those are callings. And many shamans, that's how they're called in many cultures, is that they get very, very sick with a mysterious illness, and it doesn't go away until they accept the role, until they accept the training and the responsibility. And then sometimes instantly it goes away, or sometimes it just starts to go away. It starts to get better at that point.
I'm just kind of laughing a little bit only because given some personal, like recent medical, and I'm just like, so all of us with the mysterious autoimmune disorders.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it can really help to come because a lot of autoimmune disorders is your body not being able to recognize what is a foreign invader and what isn't. And things like this can help with that. It can, but only if you're willing to help yourself, because there's some realizations that you have to come to with those kind of disorders, and some ways that you have to, some lifestyle changes you have to do, because that's part of what that calling is telling you.
So for all of our new friends joining in, Zane is offering this healing Mesada on the 18th at Goddess Elite. It is limited spacing, so if you know you're wanting to come, I wouldn't wait too long to sign up. And this is an in-person only event. This type of work is not best suited for online, as we talked about last week. But maybe we'll get the shaman bus and take Zane on the road one of these days. Brooke and I were already like,
do that for sure.
We're getting him to Florida.
Yeah.
We hope you'll join us for the Mesada on the 18th at the store. If you have any questions about the shamanism work that Zane is talking about, the Mesada, please feel to ask. And Uncle Joe, I see your question and I'm going to respond to you on the side. You know what? Maybe Zane, my teacher, a little off topic, but he's thinking about a warming stone to soothe and comfort bladder and lower intestine. What other kind of stone could promote healing? Or Zane, in your healing work, what might work well for Joe, Uncle Joe? Great Uncle Joe, actually.
Well, yeah, one thing is water, good water, and plenty of it. A little bit more than what you think you need to hydrate, uh, and for a while doing that, and to really get in touch with your stomach, with your gut, with the spirits in there, and to see the gut as a living entity. You're not the only living entity in your body. There are every cell has its own consciousness. They group together and they create tissues that have their own consciousness. They group together, they create organs that have their own consciousness. So to talk to your intestines, to tell them that they know how to heal themselves, and to ask them to do a good job, and to not feel silly while doing it, to be very serious about that, and to really get into your gut, and then start to look at the things in your life that you're not eliminating. Start to look at the things that you're holding on to that you have outgrown, these habits and these people that you're not having proper boundaries with. And when you start to have better boundaries with them, that is going to have a great effect on this condition and other conditions that you feel even more chronically. That's going to help and go a long way. There's a real boundary issue there that needs to be solved.
And Uncle Joe, I know that you've had some personal stuff and some grief that need to be addressed. Please feel free to reach out on the side, and we can talk over some stuff too. And I put it in chat, but we can go deeper than that as for what you might need on top of. So maybe haven't been taking care of yourself as much, being lost in this grief. Let's see. Unless you're coming into Ohio next weekend, Joe. And it would be great to see you, but I know you work. But yes, so next weekend on the 18th, and this is in the evening. So hopefully everybody who wants to come, get done with work and all of the stuff maybe that you have to do with family and friends, and be able to come. And it's going to go about, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So
yeah, I mean, it's a flexible period of time, because it really depends on how in depth people want their messages, if they want messages and come up, or if they're coming up for healing. But approximately an hour and a half, 2 hours.
So you don't have to worry about being holed up in a room all night on a Saturday night.
Yeah. Just I don't see any reason why it would go too much longer than 2 hours, but it's always we really don't like to let them go longer than 2 hours. Personally, that's something that we tend to try to keep them, even when you have a lot of people. We're limiting ours to 12, but when you have a lot of people, because I have seen 20, 30, even more than that myself personally, come to one of these, we still try to limit it to just 2 hours.
So again, guys, if you're thinking of coming, it is limited to only 12. So make sure you register to secure your spot on the Goddess Elite website. On the events page, you'll see it. I know, Zane, you've gotten a few comments from people saying that they want to come. Yeah. So even if you've messaged Zane, we need you to go ahead and reserve, because if we have 10, 12 people already reserve and you're not one of them and you show up, it's up to Zane of whether or not, we're able to take you, because we want to honor the people that signed up at the time. And
we want to really, it's deep work, and we really want to honor who has shown up. And I try to keep mine anymore much shorter or much smaller groups, because I want to be able to do quality work with each person. Quality work's done regardless, but we want to, but I really want to give each person the greatest amount of effort.
Right. So yeah, if anybody has any more questions about the event coming up, or maybe even for Zane himself, go ahead and ask. I already promised Zane I wasn't going to hold him hostage for 2 hours tonight, talking like we went last week. So if you didn't watch last week, you can go back and watch it. It's living up on the YouTube channel. And it was a good 2-hour discussion. There were quite a few questions that were asked, and we covered not only the Mesada, but a little bit. We kind of tipped teeny tiny chips of the iceberg of the Peruvian shamanism that you teach. Mm-hmm. So, if you have any interest, go back and watch it. It was last Thursday, I believe it was. Maybe it was last week. Let me go watch. But we kind of decided maybe in that live that a little later in the summer, maybe starting another round of the apprenticeship.
Yeah, so, most likely, what were you saying? June, I think we were saying.
Yeah, June or July.
July, actually July, because of the retreat and that's another thing. If people are interested in something like this, there is a big retreat. It's a 6-day retreat that will be done in the mountains of eastern West Virginia, Maryland, and we will be going to certain sacred sites that hold the appropriate energy for the initiations into the tradition. And we'll be doing the traditional Karpai initiations and the rites. We'll also be doing a thing that is geared that's a little bit different than that, because we will have this auspicious moment of being there for the summer solstice. So we'll be doing some work that is all about the summer solstice, which is about actively dreaming a new dream for our lives and a new dream into being for the entire planet. So we'll also be doing some work on that. But that's coming up, and that will be June 18th through the 23rd. And if anyone's interested in that, you don't have to be in the apprenticeship program to come to it. Though there will be a lot of people who are in it, you don't have to be in it to come and receive these initiations. But I want to also tell you, initiations are only part of the equation. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think, oh, I got my initiation, I'm this bona fide this now. And that's just not true. Initiations are a way of passing down lineal tools and gifts that are unique to that lineage, whatever that lineage is. But it's just a starting point. There's training that's needed, which is that apprenticeship program that we were talking about. There's also that's needed to help you develop the ability to use everything that is awakened during an initiation.
Yeah. And like Brooke said, you're never done learning. That's why I sit through your apprenticeship in person anytime I can. And it's different every time. Hence, I just have, it feels like volumes and volumes of like notebooks and pages and notes and in margins and flipping back and referencing back from the year before to something that's happened, in the new one. So, but I agree, you're never done learning, and that's why I always sit in.
Yeah, it's, part of it is we really do like read the energy of the year we're in. It's really important to do that. The underlying framework, there's a structural framework to the work that doesn't really change. It's a little bit flexible, and it bends, and it allows for a lot of flexibility and for a lot of adaptation within it. But that framework doesn't change. What changes is what's most important to what becomes most important to demonstrate through that framework for a year. There are some years that we focus a whole lot on healing. And part of that could be the year, but a part of that could also be the group of people you have that really big in them. Other years, it's really about developing more the power of the visionary. We touch on all these subjects every year, but there's different things that come up. And every group is different. Every year is different. But you can see the similarity, and you can, after you go through it a few times and have sat through it, you see the structure that's behind it. You see that there is actually a wisdom behind it and a beauty behind it that I believe is one of the greatest gifts given to the modern world, is this kind of untarnished process of personal development. Because people think, oh, well, becoming a shaman's about becoming a healer and and putting up your shingle and inviting people to come and receive healings from you. And that's true for some. Other shamans are more about a vision, have more of a visionary quality. They're more about helping you see the potentials in front of you, helping you dream something that doesn't even seem possible at the moment, but helping you to put the right energy behind it to start creating a new destiny. And that's another whole side of it. Another side of it is more a sagely side, or a mentoring side, where you're really kind of coaching, in a sense, we call it today, coaching a person through things. But every person's different, and their gifts are different, and how their gifts demonstrate in this reality is different. So, it's not like you go into the program and you come out at 20 people go in and 20 little Zanes come out. That's not what happens. What happens is you become awakened to what your unique gifts are and your unique flavor of personal power. And for some people, that might be painting, or that might be singing, or that might be songwriting. And by doing that, by finding what that really is for you, and by putting your energy behind it instead of some other dream or some expectation you have, by finding what it really is for you and putting that energy behind that aspect, suddenly you do become the healer. So, I mean, how many people have listened to a song? How many people have listened to a song by someone who was a talented and gifted musician, and that song becomes a motto? That song becomes a theme song for your life, and it gets you through something. It gets you through something, and you needed that. And that you just wouldn't have got through it elsewise. Or a line of poetry changes your entire life. That's magical. That's mystical. That's shamanism as well.
Well, I mean, Maria Cerna, one of your students who sat one time less than me, now that I think about it. But anyway, she's a regular practitioner in the store. And we joke all the time about how different we each operate from the apprenticeship.
Yeah.
She uses like her chumpies way more than I do.
Yeah.
I have no problem spitting Florida water. She will not. She's just like, I can't take that in my mouth. And then I joke and I'm like, well, then I revoke your shaman card, because you've got to be able to do that. That's one thing that I liked about the apprenticeship, was the ability to work the best way for yourself to be able to help the client.
Yeah, to find your niche in it all, because just like you were saying, also some people, that we all do despacho, some people become despacho masters, and they perform all their healing work, and they do all their work ends up just being their despacho, just being how they work their despacho. Still others use their mesa, their misha, and they use it like, we call it the cause pugliai, the game of life. It's the board of the game of life. And all of your kuyas are the pieces on that board. And they'll put you in the center of it, and then they'll move their pieces around to change the frequencies of what's going on with you. And not everyone in my program is adept at that and can do that. But some people do, and some people have that gift, and some people have that way of working. Other people use the individual kuyas and use them on your body, which we teach how to do that. But some people that doesn't call to them as much, and they learn that way, and there's something, I hold them to learning it and practicing with it until they develop the skill that's teaching them. And they only develop that when they have such a connection to the stone that they understand exactly what's going on and what the stone's doing. And they have to go through different types of healings with different people because the stones operate differently with different people. So they don't get the full measure of what's going on until they really apply what's been taught. And some people, that might take years to apply that to the point where they develop a different type of skill with it. And I know elder shamans that always do everything verbatim for the most part. They have their own flair because each Paco, each shaman, each curandero has their own flair in the way they do it. Each family, you can tell, even if you don't hear their name, you can tell what family some of the dons are from just by the way they make a despacho. What area of Peru they come from, just by the elements they add to it, just by the way they do their healing work. You can actually tell those things. You can say, "Oh, you're an Apaza," or "You're a Kespi, aren't you?" I can tell because you're doing something very Kespi there, and that's something unique. And I think is so beautiful about this tradition is it is flexible. You have a right to play with it. You have a right to test it. In fact, we don't call on blind faith. We call on the benefit of your doubt. That's all we need. Even at the Mesada, I don't need your faith. I just need you for 2 hours to give me the benefit of your doubt. And then by you doing that, what happens? Your own experience will become your teacher. And it will show you more than I could ever show you. And through your own experience, you can develop faith. But I don't ask anyone to have it based on what someone else says.
Louis like, I am not Zane 246 question mark exclamation. And Elizabeth says, I imagine this work would help healthcare workers be better providers.
Absolutely. And it also helps you. We also will go into how you can bring this into your day-to-day life a little bit. So it will help if a healthcare worker comes in, one thing it's going to do is it's going to remove the weight off of them. We call hucha. And this weight accumulates just from day-to-day life, just from going through our lives. We can pick up weight. It's the stresses in our lives. It's the people in our lives. It's when we want to carry something for someone. We don't always know we even want to. Someone comes and starts telling you about their problem, and you might be like, well, I'm totally disinterested in this. And then an hour later, you might find, oh, I've been carrying that. I'm thinking about them. Even though I thought I was disinterested, I'm sitting here and I can't get their problem out of my mind. I'm trying to help carry that weight for them. And especially healthcare workers, they get bogged down with so much because they deal with so much. It's a whole lot of stress. It's a whole lot of thanklessness because there's a whole lot of, you're helping a whole lot of people or attempting to help a whole lot of people, and some of them don't want to be helped. And you're having to deal with that, but you took an oath to help them anyway. Against their own efforts, you're going to try to help them. And so what a ceremony like this can do in the minimum is take the weight off of that healthcare worker or that spiritual worker or, that any line that you're in. It can take the extra weight off of you so that when the next person comes in, it's not the straw that broke the camel's back. You're not always on the edge of breakdown or on the edge of a reactionary behavior of going unconscious and reacting, so that when you come home, you're not short with your kids, you're not short with your partner. You are actually more relaxed. And these things that you're taught in this can actually relax you and help you create a more comfortable and more centered state at any time. And I'll also be teaching you how to amplify the effects of any healer, any mystic, any teacher, any doctor, any nurse that you are, or therapist that you go to. Certain things you can do to help increase their vibrancy, to help increase their ability to help you.
Hmm. So the apprenticeship is very, very worthwhile. And it's very much, you're going to learn a whole lot about yourself that you didn't even realize was there. Um, and it's very self-empowering. But, and though that being said, um, like when I had the potential couple students there, one of the things that I mentioned to the younger person was that going through this apprenticeship, it's very, very common to lose contact with certain family and friends because you are elevating and no longer on the same type of wavelength with certain types of people, and that would be okay and not to be surprised.
Yeah.
um and sometimes for some people that's very shocking to them, not necessarily in a good way at first when it's happening, that maybe your best friend since third grade suddenly just kind of falls to the side and does their own, like, because that's just a change. And
Absolutely. It happens because our energy is changing and
mhm,
we're not who we used to be. Because when you step into a path like this, you're pretty much done with who you used to be. You're pretty much, even if who you used to be was very open and very spiritual and stuff, you're saying, I'm ready for the next chapter. I'm ready for you, or you wouldn't feel the call. The call itself is your soul saying, I'm ready to change and I'm not changing right now.
mhm,
And so that really is something that that happens. So as you change, some people don't want to be around you anymore because they don't want the new you.
mhm,
They want the old you that you used to be. And a lot of times that's because it's based on codependency, different types of codependency. It's based sometimes on the fact that you played a role for them that you were unconscious of. They were dumping something on you, they were abusing you in some way. And as you start to develop a new type of self esteem and you start to develop a sovereignty in your life, that can be very threatening to someone who needs you to be weak.
mhm,
Maybe what they needed from you and what kept your whole friendship alive was they were the put together one, and you were the one that was just out there a little bit and always needed a little bit of help. And then suddenly, when you don't need that type of help anymore, or even if you do, you suddenly are more happy with helping yourself than having them help you. Suddenly, they don't get the rush of power that they once got.
mhm,
Uh, and another thing is your boundaries could be really, really shredded, and you don't even realize it until you get into the program and you start to realize, hey, these are the things that are important to me. These are my values, and I can't let anyone stomp all over that. And we start to learn to have clear and strong boundaries, you know. And for someone who their whole thing is about stepping over that boundary, they're not going to want to be around you anymore. And
mhm.
still others won't want it because they see you growing and healing and changing, and they're scared to do it for themselves. So you become this aching reminder of the potential they're not living up to in their own life.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first couple times, a lot of us that were sitting in that apprenticeship, a lot of us ended up single and divorced. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Not gonna say that's gonna be everybody, but when you get that realization on yourself and you realize I am giving way too much, or I am not doing enough for me as I am for everybody else, and you start making those shifts, then changes start happening.
Yeah.
And
And it's necessary for those changes to happen because you have to break free of the people who have become your environment,
mhm,
because your environment's going to remind you of your old state of being. And if what you're really wanting is a new state of being and you want to be a new you, and you're really ready to step up to a potential that you feel is inside of you, then some people in your life have to change because they're never going to allow that. They're never going to allow you to step into that role, to be fully the new you you've become. They're always going to hold you back in another role. And in that way, they're constantly reminding you of who you used to be, of what your limitations used to be. Of and a lot of people, especially when they do spiritual development work, they start to realize, wait, that's really limiting me. And then they realize the big secret. That person's not limiting me. I'm limiting myself because of the fear of not having that person in my life.
mhm. Yeah, you if and when those relationships end, you do get to learn how to work through letting that go, and any grief or anything that comes with that, and not letting it destroy maybe what you're trying to create for yourself. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of learning about yourself that's going to happen. And I will also say, and I've recommended quite a few people take the apprenticeship, especially those that are empathic, and find it really, really hard. Everybody's empathic, not just certain people, right? Um, when they come into the store and they're like, I can't even go grocery shopping. And I'm like, why not? And you're like, well, I just feel everything. And I'm like, there's some classes you need to sit. Like, you should not be in that space in yourself that you feel like you can't even go get food that you need.
Yeah.
Changing that mindset, learning how to deal with that energy, and getting that power back for yourself, that I can go anywhere I want and not have to feel uncomfortable in public if I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's, there's different levels of empathy and empaths, and some are very, very strong and very, very sensitive. And the thing that usually is going on there, because I know some of the most sensitive empaths in the world. I know some people who are extremely sensitive, but they can get done what they need to get done when they need to get it done. And that comes down to learning how to deal with the energies that are presenting to you. And another big part of it is that empaths don't always realize that traumas are part of what made them so sensitive.
mhm,
That living in a traumatic experience caused them to have to develop a sense to know what was coming next. They had to know if the person had just changed emotionally, to keep themselves safe, to keep themselves in a good place. And so they really developed a humongous gift from the traumas in their life, a humongous gift from these misfortunes that were happening to them, because it was the only way that they could kind of predict what was coming next. It was
mhm,
the only way that they could really know. And they don't realize that some of the discomfort they feel, some of the uncomfortability that they feel, is unhealed trauma. It's triggering that, and it puts you back into that state where you had to be. Oh, this energy feels like that, so it must be this. It's just an example. It's my abusive dad coming through the door. Now, just because that energy feels the same doesn't mean it is the same, because
mhm,
people have different qualities of energy. And what one human can't deal with, a quality of energy that sends one human into being a raging maniac, another human may have a complete ability to operate within and still be a kind and beautiful person. So when we get triggered, then our own release of adrenaline and cortisol, fight or flight, happens, and you feel like you have to run, you have to get out, and it overrides your intuition. Yeah, there's times that you're out, and if you're If your intuition is kicking, you go, hey, I got to get out of here. But you know what the difference is? Fight or flight doesn't kick in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get the adrenaline rush of, oh, I got to go. Oh my gosh, everything is, this is the last moment of my life. And if I don't get out of here, you don't get that. You just calmly know, I don't need to go down that road right now. It's not the best thing for me to go down that road right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not the best thing for me to be in this place right now. This feels a little off. It's time for me to move. But when our story gets involved, suddenly when our traumas and our imprints get tapped, the weight gets on them, the hoochie gets on them, then all of a sudden we're reacting to that past event that is not happening today. And so now walking into the grocery store, feeling this energy, now all of a sudden we feel like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here or I'm going to die. And it's because something has tapped that past trauma. And that past trauma, once it's tapped, your body can't tell the difference between a memory going through your mind and the actual event happening.
And it's like mic drop, right? So that's why, I always suggest the apprenticeship. And in the past, it was set up to where you couldn't come and go, but you could start and you could go up to a certain point and stop if you wanted. And the next time it came around, you could pick up where you left off. And I would tell people, if nothing else, start in the beginning and go through until the belting ceremonies, and learning to feel that, learning how to deal with it, for those that are stuck in like, I can't go to Walmart because I don't like the way it feels. I'm like, it's just a feeling. Why are you letting a feeling chase you out of a building?
We learn. Go ahead though. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. But again, so, when the apprenticeship comes around, like, it is so self-empowering. And I really tell people, like, you should really consider taking it. It is an investment in yourself and it empowers yourself, to sound as corny as that is. But it really, really is worth it. Even if you never publicly work with another person with what you learn, and you keep it for yourself and maybe family members if you want, it is worth it. It is absolutely worth it.
Yeah, it's and there's no shame in that. If all it is a personal thing for you, there's no shame in that. And you don't know how long it's going to only be a personal thing for you. You might think, I'm never going to step out there and do healings on people. And then, like you were saying, a friend or someone is sick, you go and you do something, and it may not be instantaneous, but then you see the fruit of it. Mm-hmm. We do our work without expectation. We don't expect anything, but we do our work anyway. And that's the proper state of mind to be in. It's not the proper state of mind to be in to say, oh, this person's going to be healed. This person's going to be healed. And to hold such a strong focus that they're going to be healed, and to have some expectation that it's going to happen in this amount of time and everything. That, number one, you're slowing down the life force energy. All of those mental constructs are taking up processing power. They're like these little programs running in the background. And what we want to do is stop all the programs from running, get out of the way, and allow the healing energy to do its work, and to understand there's nothing we should expect to be the end result of it. There's not we have no expectations that any of our work will do anything for anyone. Mm-hmm. And then we're extremely surprised by what our work does do in our own lives and in the lives of others, and how it randomly plays out. Because you could have two people come to you with the exact same condition caused by the exact same type of issue, and the healing can work out totally different. One might instantaneously be healed. The other one might be healed in a slow and gradual manner, but both of their lives are changed.
Mm-hmm. It's what's best for them, how that changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree, Brooke. So back when we were talking about people who Don't go anywhere. So staying in that space and not trying to fix it or adjust it feels like a kind of martyrism. It's not a badge of honor to allow yourself to be overwhelmed all the time.
Yeah, it's absolute. That's absolutely true. Another thing that happens is people think that they can that they can suffer to help another person. People will think that through their suffering, they are changing or helping a person grow or heal, and it just doesn't work. That type of necromancy doesn't work. It just doesn't produce real results. What it does produce, the results that it does produce are dangerous results and strange results. And they're usually results where everyone concerned is becoming a slave to power.
Let's see. Well, and some people work from that way because then they want to say, look what I can do. And I took that suffering. I took it upon myself, and how great, I am, and that is.
Yeah.
So,
and even if you do take that upon yourself and you rid them of it, you've just stopped their progression. You just stopped that person's growth. And you're not necessarily helping yourself either by taking that on that way. I mean, we do carry things for people. I'm not saying we don't, but we learn how to do that in a way that is aligning with the beneficent healing spirits of nature and the healing spirits of the universe. And when we align with them, there's a difference in it. There's a different quality to its power, to its energy. And it doesn't feed the ego as much.
Right. So it's definitely worth taking the apprenticeship, guys. Also going to be worth taking the Mesada if you're able to and can. I know Brooke was like, I wish Florida and Ohio were closer.
Yeah, me too. I've got there's a big, I have a friend down in Florida who used to run the Arlington Metaphysical Chapel and also used to have Mountain Mamas, where I used to teach in southern West Virginia. And she has, I think she said 129 acres in Florida. And she has been asking me to come down sometime and present something down there. So I wish it was closer too.
I'm telling you, we're going to have to get the shaman tour bus.
Yeah.
If I can't get Marianne on the ghost tour bus, we'll get Zane on the shaman tour bus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brooke's like, please do.
Yeah, we can do a tour straight down the East Coast.
There we go. I mean, I'm for it.
Come back up through the Midwest and Route 66 and all that.
Well, we'll just have to make sure it doesn't look too cultish and crazy. Which it's not, guys. It's not a cult. But if anybody's got any last parting questions for Zane, we'll let him not be on for 2 hours. We are already at an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. If anyone has a question that's just burning, this might be your only chance to ask before the event. And even if it's something about something totally different, about the coming apprenticeship, that, like I said, that will be July. Sometime in July, we will start the next run. It goes approximately 6 to 9 months. What do I mean by that? The work can all be done in 6 months, but you might take it a little bit slower for yourself to make it fit easier into your own life. And we do it with the work of a mentor. So you're not just getting teachings from me. There's also someone who's going to help you move through the work and help you learn it and help you put it into proper perspective for yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's like you get personal mentoring.
Elizabeth says, it's been delightful. I didn't know what to expect, but Zane is incredibly humble.
Oh, well, thank you.
And Uncle Joe says, nice talk, Zane. Really enjoyed it.
Nice meeting you, Joe.
Um, but yeah, it's been a good talk. I think well, Zane, I can listen to you talk forever. Just the amount of knowledge up in your brain there. Um, so we will keep planning on the apprenticeship start for anybody that wants to join that in summer. And again, the Masada will be on the 18th, 6 p.m. at Goddess Elite. And if you have any questions about exactly what's going on there and you're just now coming in, like, hello, Rosie, and so sorry we're getting ready to get off, hon. There was like a 2-hour conversation last week about the Masada and the shamanism that you teach and that I have studied under you. And then the beginning part of this here live has the information there. Thanks, Gina. She says interesting info. So for all of our friends that watch the Wednesday morning ghost chats with Marianne and I, and you guys are asking me questions about what I know, what I've learned, I'm like, this is the guy who has taught me all those things. So this is where you can learn some of what I know, and I say some because each apprenticeship, like Zane said, is always different depending on the people that are attending and the questions that they have and the experiences that they've had. So maybe contemplate coming in and sitting in an apprenticeship. And 6 to 9 months, man, there's been some where it was 8, there were some where it was like 10 or 11, just because of things that were coming up, and nobody minded at all. And actually we were all a little sad when it was done. It's like, oh, well, when's the next one?
Yeah, it's a continuing path. When I went to put into effect the mentor program, and with training the mentors, I realized just how much what that really means. That is a lifelong path, and to try to foster the growth and the learning in everyone at each level of the apprenticeship that they're in. And to help them keep moving forward, and to keep awakening to new things and keep asking new questions, and just moving forward in their own life. It's a great and humbling experience for sure.
It is, and every apprenticeship, there's always a group that's made, and so a lot of us keep in contact. And talk with one another. We still have yet to sit down. Like we were talking, like me, Hank, Jared, Maria, like a lot of us, and we're like, we're all going to come together. We're going to find somewhere with one of those long lawyer conference tables. We're going to lay out all the notes that everybody's taken, and like kind of go through and like, what did you get and what did you have, and like, do you remember him saying that? I'm like, I was there. I don't even remember him saying that. I was just listening to the talk that I forgot to write that down.
Yeah. Well, there's also these little moments that happen, these little time slips that happen during the teachings, where it can be something that is just one-on-one, even in a room full of all kinds of people. Just all of a sudden something wants to be said, and it's going to be for that one person. You don't know why you're saying it. You don't need to. Who cares why? You just go ahead and blurt it out. And in those moments, there's this mystical union that happens. And so some things no one else hears, even though it's spoken loudly in front of everyone. No one else hears it because it wasn't for their ears.
Mm-hmm. So it's a very cool experience. Again, I mean, I definitely recommend taking it, if nothing else, just for yourself. But Brooke's like, let's talk apprenticeship and how I can participate. So, and we were talking, Zane, that the next time around it would be kind of like a hybrid.
I would like to do a hybrid, yeah, because there's things that can be taught, like you were bringing up, the beauties of the live aspect of it, the in-person aspect. But there's things that can be taught also in the virtual that just can't be taught in the live because I can't be there on a weekly basis with everybody. I can't be there 3 days out of the week, but with the virtual apprenticeship, the lessons can, and they can keep you learning, and they can make it incremental for you instead of these humongous dumps of information that you might not be able to digest until the third time you're going through the program. You know,
Right.
so there's that. So the hybrid would be very nice to have.
When you're referencing the humongous dump, so what was happening before in the 3 times I think it was that I sat through? Friday was always coming together, opening ceremony. Saturday was field trip day for a good chunk of it, then come back, some lecture, some, work integration. And then Sunday was like all day, class day. So it was a full weekend of shaman learning and training. And I loved it. But I know for some people, like they were leaving with their head spinning because so much was coming at them, and so that's why some people enjoy the smaller bits of like the
Yeah.
virtual way. So I
Yeah.
I'm just that person. I can sit and listen and learn all day and like love it and get up long enough to go get something to eat, run to the bathroom, and like come back. But that's just how I am because I'm a hands-on in the moment, be there doing it.
Mhm.
So but a hybrid I think is a good thing for different types of learning
I
abilities.
do too. I believe that, I honestly see the strengths in both aspects and both ways of going about it. And like we were talking last time, and I'll make this like the end of the conversation here so we don't run too much longer. But like we were talking last time, that's what like this big group that we're doing over summer solstice is about. Because for the most part, it was put together for the proteges and the mentors that are going through the program right now so that they can come together and have that live aspect. And we always plan at least 1 to 3 different live retreats in different spots to a year. We plan on doing 1 to 3 a year to give people opportunity to come. Of course, when we have 3 in a year, they're not all 3 based around the same thing. One would be based around certain initiations. Another one is based around work that is related to the chompi work, like you were talking about, and another one's based around work that has to do with magic. You know, so when we do, but we like to do 1 to 3 a year, and then before the pandemic, we were also doing what was called reunions. So we'd have a weekend somewhere, like at Serpent Mound or something, and it would be, and we would try to keep it extremely inexpensive for people, and they'd come, and it would just be focusing on one element of the work for that weekend. Like
Mhm.
1 year, we focused on how to give an initiation with a despacho. So that was really our big focus for the weekend, you know. And we usually have some guest speakers that come in also on those weekends that teach us about some other aspect of the work. Maybe not always Andean work, you know, but they teach us about some related field of work.
So, oh, and Brooke's like, she's like, I'm ready. I'm ready. However, it ends up looking, I'm committed.
All
And
right.
Karen, was like, if I tried virtual, I would have my fur babies doing the course too.
Well, that's
Uh,
great. I had a cat who passed away, but his favorite place was my Misha, my big Cuandero Misha. Anytime, and I could tell if he was sick with anything because he would always go lay on it. He wouldn't lay on it on a day-to-day basis, but when he went in and he was just like on it, and I couldn't keep him off of it, I knew that he was sick with something, and I would start doing work for him.
it's funny. When we're building our mesa, there's feathers on it, right?
Yeah.
And when we were, I'm like, oh, my kitty cat better leave that. He is never ever messed with anything on there other than if he were trying to get on the windowsill here in the apartment now. And he's a little bit of a chunker. So, you know, maybe he misstepped, but he wasn't like going after the feathers or anything of the sort. And when I'm sitting here working with the Mesa, he'll usually come over and lay nearby.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing or who I'm working with, he'll kind of investigate and then he's like, oh, I'm not interested in that. And off he'll go. But even right now, like he's sitting here behind me, which is why I'm not leaning on the couch and, you know, kind of pushing me off my own couch. But, but
My cat had these. We played with different types of toys, but his favorite were either jingle balls, little balls that have bells in it, or he also loved just balled up pieces of paper that
uh-huh.
I would throw. And so I would come home sometimes, and he would have his toys placed on my mesa, like in the same type of order and stuff, like with my kuyas. So it was like he was putting his down too. Like, well, these are my important things.
Oh, right.
No, I got
Now,
to put them here too.
I wonder if you would put a GoPro on him. Was he going outside and taking toys and with other little animals? Um, and Mike says his animals never messed with anything on his. And Lou's like, my guys often push stuff out of their way to make a big enough spot to be with her.
Yeah. It's more like that with them. They usually can feel the sacredness, and some are even afraid of it.
Mhm.
They'll be afraid of it because they feel the energy and they're not comfortable with that. Especially cats are very sensitive to energy fluctuations. Dogs are too, but cats are have such a high tuned nervous system.
Mhm.
It doesn't take much for that lightning bolt to shoot through a cat, and they're off jumping off a wall or something. So, it's a little different for them. So they really get spooked easy from some things, depending on the animal. Well,
Right.
I see we're at about an hour 20, and uh,
Mhm.
I
Well,
think
let's
it's
cut
a
it off
good
before
time to
two.
wrap up.
Well, thank you for joining everybody for the talk. Hopefully, you'll join us for the Healing Masada on the 18th if you're able. And please register as soon as you can because it is limited to 12. And we want to make sure those who really want it and feel that they need it are able to attend.
Yeah, even if you've already talked to me, don't you need to contact Melissa. You need to get in touch with her and tell her what's up. Register, whatever you need to do that because she's the one that's keeping tally for me. I don't do all that. So I can't tell you how many are signed up or anything like that. But she can say, oh yeah, there's still space, or oh no, there's not still space. And it's very important to do that, and to do that as soon as possible because you know, if you're on the fence about it, uh, you know, making that decision really frees up the space one way or another. Making the decision to either do it or not do it, it frees up the space so that we know we have an idea of who's coming because it is a group energy ceremony. So there is the need for the group and to have an understanding of what size of a group we're going to be working with.
Right. And that being said, Zane, you said you would work with the minimum of 3 to 5.
Yeah, yeah,
So um, so that's why it's so limited, guys. So don't wait too long because we want to make sure those who want it, need it, are able to get it.
yeah, absolutely.
And if it fills up real quick, I'm sure we can get Zane to give us another date for another time of it happening. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that I used to back in the early 2000s. It's something that I used to do quite often. That I would travel and do in different spots and different places. The healing masadas. So
mhm. But thank you for joining everybody. Have a great night. Feel free to go back and watch the 2-hour conversation we had last week about it. And if you're just coming in and you're kind of lost, go back and watch the beginning. There's a lot of information both in the beginning and last week's conversation. But we appreciate you joining and have a great night, everybody. Bye bye.